Hey everyone, good morning. This is almost the end of a week and we're a little bit behind, got some catch up to do. So we're going to start off with today's video and we're going to talk about cold turkey goals. Now that's a funny expression. If you're not familiar with it, cold turkey goals, that expression has to do with things that we need to cut out of our life immediately. So I don't know why we say cold turkey, but when you have a bad habit that you need to stop, you just say, well, I cut it out, I quit it, cold turkey. Means you just dropped it, you stopped it right away. Unfortunately, those are often the goals that are the hardest to eliminate and the hardest to get rid of. Or not goals, but those negative habits are often the hardest to get rid of. Now tomorrow we're going to talk about go as you grow goals. Those are positive habits. So positive habits are things that we can build on and we continue building on in our life, that we want to incorporate into our life. But when you have a negative habit that you need to eliminate, then you don't negotiate. You don't negotiate with bad habits. And the reason you don't negotiate with bad habits is because they tend to just kind of take over the life. If you give them an inch, they take a mile. And it's the old illustration that you may have heard called the Arab and the camel. And it goes something like this. So one night an Arab was in the desert with his camel, and they had stopped their journey for the night, and the Arab had pitched up his tent, and he was in his tent, and the camel was outside. And the camel says to his master, he's like, "Oh, master, it is a cold night, and my nose is cold. May I please put my nose inside the tent?" And the master says, "Camel, Mr. Camel, my tent is very small. There's only room for me." And the camel says, "Oh, but please, just my nose, please." And so the Arab consents, and the Arab puts his feet outside of the tent to make room for the camel's nose. And a few minutes later, the camel says, "Oh, master, my ears are cold. May I put my ears? Can I move the rest of my head into the tent so my ears can be in the tent with you?" And, again, okay. And, the Arab moves a little farther out of the tent so that the camel's head can come into the tent. And a few minutes later, "Oh, master, my neck is cold." And so the neck comes into the tent and the Arab goes a little bit farther out of the tent. And so on and so forth until finally at the very end, the camel's like, "Oh, master, my tail is cold." And the story ends with the camel in the tent, completely in the tent, and the poor owner completely outside of the tent, trying to stay warm with his blanket. And it's an illustration of how things often work in our lives when it comes to negative habits. So maybe it's media. You find yourself way too much on social media. Maybe you find yourself just watching too much YouTube or Netflix or whatever it is. Maybe it's something that you're eating, junk food, sugar, you name it. Maybe it's something you're drinking, whether it's sugar or alcohol or something else, and you find that it's just controlling your life. For other people, and we could go on up the list into more, addictive habits, etc. Maybe it's things that that you're looking at online that you shouldn't be looking at. Now, we can give any number of examples of bad habits, and these things take a foothold in our life. And the reason they take a foothold is because oftentimes they're attempting to supply an emotional need that has never been satisfied. So there's something that I want and I desire. I like the feeling that this thing gives me. And so this is the reason I keep doing it, because it provides a momentary escape from whatever negativity I'm trying to avoid in my life. And so there's deeper questions that have to be asked, and a deeper healing that needs to be accomplished. But I'm not so concerned in this particular video with addressing the deeper, stronger, addictive holds that some negative habits have in people's life. I'm looking more on the day-to-day and the day-to-day negative habits that we find ourselves dealing with, that we can somehow we somehow like them. They kind of control us, but they don't fully control us. But we know we should quit them, but we don't really quit them, and so we kind of negotiate and parley with them a little bit. And those are the ones that we really want to attack and overcome, because that's really what keeps us down. Now, I'm not unconcerned of somebody who's really struggling, fighting a hand-to-hand battle with some master passion in their life or some master addiction. But that's just not the point and focus of this video right now, to address that particular topic. But the principles that I'm going to share are similar for both situations. So I'm talking to the kind of person who you for the most part, you've got a handle on your life. You're doing most of the things you should, but you recognize there's some areas in your life that they're in control of you. And they're not so much that it's like totally affecting your family and your work and your life and all that. But you're a victim to it. And you can't quit. And that's they're the quote unquote the little things, the little sins. And you want to quit them. So those kinds of things you can't negotiate with them. You can't be like, well, I'm going to, I'm going to taper myself off this candy bar. I'm going to eat half a candy bar today and a quarter candy bar tomorrow. It's not going to happen. Nobody has the willpower to do that. If you decide you're going to cut the candy bar out, you got to throw the whole candy bar out. So you just got to cut it out. Now, what do you do in place? So this is where the key is in your cold turkey goals. You have to eliminate them entirely. You can't negotiate with them. But then you have to replace them with something else to distract you, to satisfy you, to fill you, so that thing does not control, so that you can get a handle on pushing that thing out of your life. It's going to strengthen your willpower. So you have to replace it with something. So I don't know, I can't give you all the examples of possible goals you might be struggling with, but you always replace something negative with something positive. And by doing that, emphasizing that, say, okay, maybe at this time I normally would do this, I'm going to go do this instead. And it'll take a little persistence at the beginning, but push through that. And as you push through and you keep emphasizing, okay, I'm going to eat, and you got to be very intentional and you got to plan it. So let's say you find yourself the type of person who, maybe you come home in the evening and you sit down and you're just watching a bunch of TV and you're like, okay, I don't want to do that. Okay, what are you going to do instead? So you got to be very intentional. When I get home from work, I'm going to do A, B, and C instead. And by just continually being intentional and planning that, you can start to fill your life with good things. And so you get rid of the bad by filling your life with the good, and the good you build on. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. So here's to quitting cold turkey and growing as you go.